Hey guys, this week I've spent some time in the new 2019 Nissan Leaf. This is an SL Plus. I've only had this car for a few days and I do have to give it back tomorrow, but I wanted to give you guys some impressions and thoughts on what it's been like to live with these past few days before I do hand back the keys. So I haven't had an electric vehicle for quite a while, and this was really kind of interesting for me to experience this week because I haven't lived with an electric vehicle on my 110 volt outlet for quite a while, and I was really curious to see how this newer generation of 200 mile plus range EVs do with my kind of average charging setup. So 100%, this is showing me 200 miles of range instead of 215, which is actually pretty impressive because we've had some pretty cold days here in Michigan. About 17 degrees Fahrenheit. There's really actually quite a bit that I like about this Leaf. This car, the best way I can describe it is it's about as close to a normal vehicle as I think any electric car on the market is these days. Except for maybe like the e-Golf or something like that. But I really appreciate that. So many companies are trying to try different things and really integrate technology into their EVs. And for people who just want a normal car with a decent amount of interior space, easy to use ergonomics, practical, usable on a daily basis, that's familiar, this is a really, really good way to go. I love how low and how much space you have in the hatch back here. You can fold down those rear seats. And this is a really, I think, a decently attractive car too. It's not weird looking. This doesn't necessarily look like an EV from first glance. The rear end is a good vantage point, and of course the front kind of takes on Nissan's latest design language. Let's take it for a drive and we'll kind of go over some of the pros and cons that I've experienced this week. There's a lot that I like about this car that's just related to its nature of being an electric vehicle. So, you know, you can start it up and pretty much it'll memorize that you've had your heated steering wheel on, your heated seats on. Climate control pretty much turns on instantly by the time you're at the end of your driveway. Of course, you're gonna, lose about 5 to 10 miles of range with that system working, but if the sacrifice in range is worth the extra comfort in the winter, then that's a decision you kind of have to make for each drive. So it's nice to be able to warm up really fast in a car like this. And on days where it's sunny out and you get a lot of sun and heat coming into the car from kind of that greenhouse effect, you can turn off the climate control and pretty much feel pretty comfortable with the heated steering wheel and the heated seats. However, my favorite feature on this car is the use of this. It's called the e-pedal. And basically it's one pedal driving. So Tesla has had this in their vehicles for quite a while. This will actually bring you to a complete stop and you basically don't have to use the brakes. I will very often go for half an hour long drive, 30-40 miles in this car, and not touch the brake pedal once, except for if I have to pull into a driveway or there's an emergency stop. It's pretty amazing how usable this e-pedal is. I believe you can pull about 0.2 G on maximum deceleration. You kind of see the speedometer go down, but basically you let off the pedal and it'll slow the car down completely and smoothly, and it's a really pretty neat way to drive. It takes a little bit of getting used to at first, but once you get going, it becomes pretty intuitive. Of course, with the battery packs, the Leaf handles really well. It's very neutral around corners, and has a lot of mechanical grip, especially considering it's on eco tires. More than enough power to break the tires loose. This has a great amount of torque, great amount of power. Of course, it's all instant because it's electric, but I think if this had any more power to it, then you'd be running into torque steer or just spinning the tires. I'll show you some energy usage here. So 160 kilowatt electric motor. I've got it in eco mode right now. dynamics, the way this thing drives, it's easy. It's a normal car. It's just electric, so you've got a lot of silence, a lot of quiet. And I'm happy to report that the interior on this doesn't have any rattles. It feels really well bolted together. There's a little bit of suspension noise over bumps. I wish there was just a little bit more smoothness and refinement with the suspension. Sometimes in low speed, like coming up a driveway or something, you'll hear a little bit of creaking and clanking. But honestly, it's not too bad. This car rides really well too. It has excellent ride quality. Some of these electric vehicles, like the Chevy Bolt, has really, really stiff suspension, and the short wheelbase adds to kind of basically unsavory ride quality characteristics. So far in this review, I have not touched the brake pedal once. I've just been letting off the accelerator, which is pretty awesome. When you are in e-pedal mode, the brake pedal is a little bit weird, where there's not a lot of feel. It's kind of button-like until you get into actual pad on rotor and basically get beyond that regenerative zone. But honestly, it's not really that big of a deal because you're not using the brake pedal maybe once or twice per drive, if that. And then once you're out of e-pedal mode, it feels pretty natural. The transition between regen and braking is pretty good. This car has great visibility too. I love how easy it is to see out of. You almost have a slightly higher driving position too. I feel like I can kind of see over some of the smaller sedans, like this Honda Civic in front of me. Part of that probably is the battery pack underneath the vehicle, just kind of raising up the cabin inside here. And the seats are a little bit higher. So, I don't feel like I'm in a tiny little hatchback in this Leaf. I feel like I'm in a pretty decently sized vehicle, and I appreciate that. I also love the ergonomics. This car is so easy. I've only had this thing for a few days, but I already know where all the buttons are. You can see everything with your from your driver's point of view where buttons are located. Everything's easy to access. The menus are simple. There's none of this deep stuff hidden inside a touchscreen. And their cruise control, the rear guided cruise control lane keep assist system works pretty well. Again, not something that I want to trust with my life all the time, but it's a system that works quite well in a pinch where, let's say, you need to take your eyes off the road for half a second, and you can set your lane keep and your radar cruise, and it does a pretty good job. It's very smooth. It does a nice job following the car in front of you. Stopping for traffic lights, though, it's not so good at something like that. This Leaf is it's nice and nimble, and it has a nice solid feel to it. This does feel like a quality item. The only place, again, where I would complain about the quality and the feel of this car, there's some scratchy, hard plastics here and there throughout the interior. And just the suspension can be a little bit noisy over bumps, but that could also be the cold weather. You can hear that right there. Otherwise, though, this car feels great. It really does drive very nicely, and I don't really have a lot of complaints about it. There's no deal breakers here for me. You can charge this really quickly with a DC fast charger within up to 80% in an hour. And on 240, you can do about the whole charge in, I think, about 8 hours. And then on 110, you're going to be looking at about 32 hours to charge this to full. I think I've been getting about 5 to 7 miles per hour of charging on this as I've been using it with my standard plug outlet. It's really pretty quiet too. You get a little bit of electric motor whine when accelerating and decelerating, but once you're above 30 miles an hour or so, you can't really hear much from the car. When you put it in reverse at a parking lot, you do get a little kind of exterior speaker that makes a little bonging noise, so pedestrians can hear you and know that there's a vehicle there. course, the radar guided cruise control will work. Will take you to a complete stop. And all you have to do to resume your speed is just tap the accelerator. There's so many intuitive, easy to use features to this car that work really, really well and without complexity. And I appreciate the fact that Nissan has not made this Leaf overly complicated. So I think the design language is in tune with that philosophy as well. This isn't a crazy looking car. It has a decent coefficient of drag, about 0.28 I believe, but it doesn't look like something that's been honed in a wind tunnel. You still have a decent amount of headspace in the back seat. It's a usable cabin in here, and doesn't look too outlandish. And I think that's appealing to a broader audience. And of course, they've sold over 400,000 of these Leafs over the years since they launched. Funnily enough, the first electric vehicle I ever drove was a Nissan Leaf back when they were launched, so about 8 years ago. And I thought it was really interesting. There were some things I didn't quite expect with an electric vehicle, and some things I liked, some things I didn't like. And this new latest Leaf is a really nice evolution of the original product, and I think they've done good things, made good decisions with this car. Of course, it's seeing some pretty stiff competition these days from the likes of like the Kona EV from Hyundai, and a few other competitors. And of course, this is becoming a pretty busy space here in 2019, 2020. But I think that's a good thing. Competition breeds a better product, and it'll be exciting to see what happens with the charging infrastructure and these vehicles in general as they evolve, and as demand evolves, and as regulations require companies to have higher overall fuel economy numbers from their fleets and from their lineups. So anyway, I hope to get some more time in one of these later on in 2020, but for now, this has been a really nice few days. I definitely need to invest in a faster 240 volt charging station in my driveway or garage. So I think that's next. That would make this thing perfectly usable. You start fresh with 200 miles or plus every day. And as a result, with my 110 though, with how I've been driving the last few days, I just keep getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And I need some time for the charging to catch up with my use. But with 240, you wouldn't really have that problem. So I think that kind of quickly sums up my time in this vehicle. If you want to see what this thing looks like in the daytime, head on over to Winding Road Magazine, where we've posted a daytime POV test drive of this Leaf, and we'll kind of take it from there. So really, pretty good car. I do really like the way electric cars drive and feel and are to live with. I think for me personally, going full electric may not quite be ready for that leap. But as a second car, I think with 240 and with a better charging system at home, that wouldn't be an issue. For me, I think a plug-in hybrid is still maybe the best overall option if you just have to have one car. But let's say this is a second vehicle for you and you don't need it to take it on long journeys, and depending on your lifestyle, something like this would be really nice to live with. And there are many pros to the way electric vehicles are by nature, and hopefully I've covered some of those in this video. So we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Excited to bring you guys some more content from different manufacturers in 2020. We've got some good stuff in the pipeline, and I'm really excited to explore some more with what we can do on YouTube and kind of continue on with this format. So I really appreciate everyone's support this year. This has been a really great year for TheTopher and for Winding Road. And keep the comments coming, keep the ideas coming for videos. If there's anything you guys would like to see, let me know. It's kind of difficult to get specific cars sometimes, but we try to get whatever we can and what's available in the fleet. And we're definitely going to be reviewing a lot more vehicles in this coming year. on both Winding Road and this channel. So stay tuned for that. Should be a good time. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.